Mhm.
Ready? Hi, everybody. I am here today with somebody who I've already had an amazing conversation with. And we are now just kind of going to bring that all together again and put it out to you. This lady's name is beautiful name. It is Turiya Ma. Is that correct? Have I said that
Yeah, that's
correct?
correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Toria looks after like the side of her therapies, which is Dartmoor Rose therapies. I know that you've got other things as well, but that's your main thing that you're here talking about today. And in the course of conversation that we've already been having, we've been talking about the Magdalena energy, the feminine side, the goddess side. Lots. It's like I said, I've already recorded half an hour before we've even got here. So just to let everybody know where you actually started right back in the beginning when you first started to awaken and some of the experiences that you went through.
Thank you so much. And yeah, wow, first of all, it's a gift to be here. I just love to share and speak into some of these things which just really, yeah, just light me up, and it's a gift to be here. So thanks for that. And yeah, wow, it feels like many moons and lifetimes and eons ago when I like think back, but in fact it wasn't, that long in terms of like years spans. Like it was back in 2011, and I was in Guatemala at a very special place. I don't know if you've been, but there's this amazing lake, and it's like surrounded by, I think it's like four or five volcanoes,
Wow.
and it's epic. Like it's just like it's such a hub, and there's a lot of like-minded beings there. There's a lot going on there, and I experienced my first astral traveling experience there, and met a spirit guide. And this was like very, you know new to me. I think I was like 21. um I'd gone to South America for 6 months. I'd already lived in Mexico for a year. So I was already sort of like on this, I guess, like alternative path in a way of going outside of my box a little bit and going outside of like, that safe family dynamic.
Yes.
So I was already kind of like moving in that space a little bit, but in terms of the spiritual world, it was completely brand new. I didn't really have anybody to talk to about it. It was just, I had this experience with this amazing yoga teacher called Jeff. And afterwards, I came out and it was just this complete, you know, reverie, illumination point of just like, what was that? I just had zero idea. And then I didn't really have that much space to really talk about it until the next day I went to another yoga class. This time it was a breath work,
Right.
and it was the first time that I'd, I guess, come into the presence of what I would class as like a spiritual mama. So like long white hair, like white clothes, loads of crystals, and like the place again. So it was in a pyramid, right by the lake. And again, I was like in this receptive space, but still with no idea really of what was unfolding. And she guided us through a breath work, and it was just quite a standard breath work. And then afterwards she came around and she blew out the candles which were around. She came and blew one out just by my head, and then just came and whispered, "Come to yoga," and then walked off. And then I looked to my friend, and then I was just like, "Did she say something to you? Did and no, no." So I was just like, "Come to yoga," and I was just like, what does that mean? I mean, apart from, yes, to be
Yes.
able to come to a class,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a deeper invitation there, which I wasn't ready to really to plant within my being. So I left that experience. I went back into the world. I worked in corporate London for about 3 years and a half. I had quite a high profile job, smashed it, you know, did that whole corporate scene, had an amazing time, great, feeling flat inside.
Yes.
And I was at that point and I was just like, wait a minute, we are on a planet which is revolving around a sun, which is in a galaxy, which is in a multi-galaxy universe, and I'm sat here doing something which doesn't set me on fire and it doesn't feel like the truth of myself. So I made the choice to quit, to move my stuff back to my parents, and I booked a one-way flight to Mexico. I had no idea. I mean, I had savings, so like I had about £10,000,
Yes.
and I just went on this one-way trip, and I was just like, right, okay, don't really know. I want to learn some new skills. I'd been called to yoga, but I hadn't quite found the depth which my heart knew of yoga, because for me it was just like, yeah, it's really nice to move, but I've got a sense that there's there's a deeper dimension that I'm like
Yes.
ready to tap into, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have that experience kind of during my time in London. So I went on this one way flight, didn't really have a plan, went and caught up with some friends in Mexico, and then found this ad to go to a yoga school by the beach. And you can go for 3 months and you can volunteer, and then in return you get a 10-day silent retreat, as well as yoga courses and like a place to stay and food. So I thought, great, okay, let's just do this. Had no idea what this place was going to be like. I kind of thought it was going to be like a shack on a beach. And I
Yes.
arrived and I was like, whoa, what is this place? Like a proper school with like 3 different halls, and this thing called a dark room where people would go and meditate in
Yes.
darkness for days, 49-day silent retreat, and each month 10 days going on, like 10 days of silence and various different things, which I was just like, wow, this is a completely new world. Like, what is this? And I can remember I sat in my first meditation, and so they guide that this school as well is called Turiya Yoga, and they now have a school in France as well, and they're part of my dear, you know, family. And so they would guide the meditation for like 15 minutes, and then you'd be left for the rest of the hour to yourself. So for people who don't have, you know, that much experience, you know, it can be quite intense. And I can remember being sat there and they guide you into the heart. So Hridaya is the Sanskrit for spiritual heart.
All right.
And yeah, so the main kind of point here is to come into the heart, to come into that deeper dimension of who we are. And the first time that I sat down, and the first time that I followed the words into my heart space, and I entered this like chamber of my heart, which I'd never been to before. And I dived in there, and it was just so lush. It was just so lush and so new. And yeah, so that was the first day, and I was supposed to be there for 3 months, and then it turned into 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it turned into 2 years. I could not move. I did lots of 10-day silences. I did the teacher training there as well, which is 3 months, and inside of that as well, you do 2 10-day silences as well as a dark room retreat. And as well, on top of that as well, I did a 59-day silent retreat, 39 days in solitude.
Wow.
So that was that time period. So that was like the big, just like, aha, there's like the depth of being, which
You certainly jumped in with both feet from
Aries sun.
right. Wow.
Aries sun. So yeah.
So you ended up being there for 2 years.
Yeah, I ended up being there for 2 years, and then after that I moved to Spain and I set up a wellbeing business. So I would guide weekly sessions, silent retreats, various different retreats. And I lived there, and then COVID happened.
Right.
And I was in India, and there's lots. there's lots of different nuances here, but I moved back to the school during COVID, but in France.
Yes.
And then during this time, the Magdalene awoke in my being, and
Okay.
and so then I as well moved to Vézelay as well, which is in Burgundy, and it's a pilgrimage site for Mary Magdalene. It's called the Eternal Hill, and it's in a town called Avalon with 2 L's.
Right.
So so then I was there and really went much deeper in that path and within the feminine path as well, because there was this awakening of having come from quite a yang kind of practice as well.
Yes.
And pretty much receiving mostly through beings in a male body. There was that part of me which was yearning to receive insight through a being in a female body. And that opened itself out in quite a dramatic way. I spent time with Amma, so the hugging saint in India, and then through her.
Wow.
Stunning, and then through her I met my spiritual teacher, who is in a female body, and then the Magdalene awoke, and now I am back in England, just on the edge of Dartmoor, right by the Mary line, and really sinking into my ancestry, really, and the Celtic rose, and seeing how that wants to speak and come forth from these lands, and that's quite kind of present in a lot of my work now, just to reclaim our connection with the ancestors, and especially here in England, because it's such a magical isle.
Yes, magical. It is. So when that actually occurred, how did you first embody, bring in, channel? What energy did you feel to the fact of when the Magdalene energy came into you?
Yeah, it was an unfolding. It was during I'd just come back from India, so I'd spent a lot of time with the Ganga, so feeling, the mother in terms of like river, and then I actually stumbled across, through a really dear sister, Anna, the Grandmother of Jesus, the book.
The one that is sat here on my
most people on this path, it's just like and it was like a coming home. It was like totally. I come from it. It was just, it was phenomenal. I mean, I do come from a Catholic background as well, so but there was always something which just didn't quite sit right. It didn't quite make sense, the story that we were being
Yes.
told.
Yes.
And so reading Anna, it just enabled a lot of remembrances to come through, and then following on from that, really cool to go and spend time in the south of France. So me and a dear sister of mine, Vida Maria, and we have Sanctuary Rosa Mystica. We run pilgrimages to the south of France to go to Saint-Baume, which is where Mary lived for, at least 30 years of her life, and various different spots on that kind of journey to that southern part of France. And so we spent a lot of time down there, and it was just, download after download. And I think, of course, she works in mysterious ways, and she works differently, a part of that same one umbrella for each of us, based on what we need to learn in this lifetime and what wants to come forth and what wants to be like spoken into. And so I guess one of the most poignant points for me was trying to find the Yoni cave in the south of France in Saint-Baume. So I don't know if have you been?
No, please tell me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's the church. So there's the church where Mary lived, and it's on this, cave. It's on a rock face.
Right.
So it's this church, very special, very, very special. So there's that cave.
Yes.
There's another cave, which is called the Cave of Eggs.
Right.
I'm getting goosebumps. So the Cave of Eggs is a demonstration or a replication of a yoni.
Yes.
So a vagina, labia, in the rock, and then you walk through the lips, and you go down quite a steep slope, and then it opens out into a chamber, and then at the end there's an altar.
Really?
And this is where it's said that she meditated,
right,
kind of during her time there as well. So it's super, super charged. It's not that easy to find. So we were trying to find it. We'd set this group intention. We were focused, and Spirit was with us. Spirit was with us. We had guides. All what was unfolding was amazing, but we couldn't find the cave. We could not find the cave, and we knew that this is an initiation to come and find the cave.
Right. Yes.
And we literally spent about 2 hours, I think, going off cliff edges and going through brambles and all different types of things, until we were at that point of just like, we don't know if we're going to find it. Like, we just don't know. And I heard her come through, and she just said, "Why do you always think that it's the most difficult path? Why do you think that you have to go up there and through that and like go through challenge to find me? Why do you think that? You're on the path, like you are on the path. Just look down at your feet and lift up one foot and then the other, and continue on the path which is already laid out, and continue to walk." 2 minutes later, I found the cave. And I was just like, that about the spiritual path.
Yes.
Why do we think it's off here and it's through that, and it's if we try and experience that, when it's like we're already on the path, we just need to walk it. Just follow the direction, we're on it. Just all we have to do is walk.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is what I always say constantly. And I am always laughing and always shaking my head and always surprised when things happen. And even though, like you say, we're on this path, and when some of the things like you've experienced, I've experienced, you literally just can't make it up.
Yeah.
And when you do relay this to some people, if we're not like we are now, obviously both of the same, where we're going with our lives, our spiritual path, our awakenings and everything else. And some people, if they came across this video and listened to us, would just think we're totally pair of loonies. But there's going to be lots of others who
Totally.
won't.
Totally. Totally.
But it's like I've said constantly, with everything that I put out, my courses, my videos, talking to other people, the chats, the interviews, and the conversations that we've had together, that, you know, the synchronicities are just off the chart. And the fact, if you're prepared to listen, and when you were relaying that story, and because that made me smile, when you said you were more or less at the fact of that you'd given up. So you'd got to the stage more or less of surrender.
Yeah.
And it's always the same, isn't it? I mean, how many times have you've done that, and then you've just gone, and the next 5 minutes, something just literally comes in, doesn't it? And I always smile when that happens, because it's always like, you just forgot to surrender.
Duh.
Yes.
That struggle.
Yes.
It's like, no, it's this way, it's this way, it's this
Yeah.
way. It's like, oh, and then it presents.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
It is beautiful, but it can be very amusing as well, can't it?
I mean,
And
we have to have a sense of
oh
humor.
gosh.
We need like the cosmic jokes,
Yes.
which are unfolding regularly. Yeah, it's important.
As you obviously, the place that you have traveled to, and that you've experienced, and that you've been, I'm sure that, you know, this is just a small bit of what you can actually relay what has happened to you, and hopefully we can go there on another video. But it's like you just said, I remember a time when I decided that I was going to go on a pilgrimage, and my birthday is at the end of January, so I always tend to go then. And I'd booked to go inside Stonehenge, which you have to be there really early in the morning. Dragged my husband with me, who was not happy. And I had the foresight to pack waterproofs, gloves, hats, walking, you name it, I'd packed it. And we were sitting there at 7 o'clock in the morning. Outside was howling, absolutely raining, blasting. And he's looking at me and he said, really? Like, really? I went, unfortunately so. And if anybody's ever been to Stonehenge, it's like flat in the middle of nowhere. And if it's like on a day like that, you are literally going to get blown to bits. And there's a video of me trying to talk in the wind about where I am, literally hat, scarf, gloves, great big coat, you name it, I've got it on. And they send us to the most fun places, and I'm like, I'm there with an expectation, as you do, don't you?
And that's the joke.
Exactly. So I'm there with an expectation, thinking, right, okay, I'm wandering around, I'm looking, I'm doing all the rest, and I'm thinking, oh, right, okay, obviously not meant to be, is it? So we're just getting to the end of the tour, where there's all the well, there's not that many, it's probably about 10 people inside. Weather's horrendous. So I stand with my back to one of the big stones, only to get out of the wind and the rain. And as I do this, because at this time it's like, right, okay, we're getting ready to go back now. So again, I suppose I'd surrendered the expectation. And as I stood there, and I'm like, right, okay, we're going back in a minute. And then suddenly there's this, and there's this flash of light. And I'm like, right, okay. And I said, this stone with a capstone on the top of it. And I said to my husband, I said, it's just literally I've been told. So I sent him first. I said, you go and stand under that stone. So I said, because everybody's getting ready to go back on the bus. So I'm standing there, he's stood under the stone, and so I'm tuning in to see what I can see. And it was like, wow, it was amazing. So I went, right, okay, I can stand under the So I said, go back, you stand where I was, I'll go and stand under that stone and then see what you can see. And it was literally, it was like, obviously, like some kind of cosmic download, hooking in with the ley lines and everything. My energy body was like literally bright white and purple on the top, everything that he could see. And I received what I needed to receive. But again, you know, it was like the weather was horrendous. It was freezing cold, wet through, but it wasn't. That's the laugh. You really do have to laugh at this. You know, I'm doing all that, but like the expectation, and I say this to clients all the time, drop the expectation. And it wasn't until it was, all right, okay, you know, forget it, we're going home now. And then suddenly, bang.
Amazing. Wow.
So I'm sure you've experienced many things like that.
Yeah, like to be very humble.
Yes.
And then when there's no expectations, like this past weekend, I went out to Grimspound, so it's a Bronze Age settlement here in Dartmoor, and I had no expectations. I took my drum, and I took various different items which felt cool to, you know, come and take out.
Yes.
And then it was the most stunning day. Like the way that the sun pierced through the clouds. And I mean, we've been having a lot of rain down here, like most of the UK. So it's just been like, wow, okay, like just the sweetness of when there's no expectations, like what we can actually open ourselves to and to receive. It's just so sweet. It's yeah, the surrender and no expectations. It was a constant.
So when did you, I know that you just mentioned that you'd been to Roslin.
Yes.
How long ago was that?
I went to Roslin. Well, I had the wedding of a friend up in Edinburgh. So as soon as I got the invite, I was just like, oh yes, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Because I mean, I've just moved back here as well. So like I've kind of been in France and in Spain and then elsewhere around the world. So it's, you know, friends, you know, they do of course invite, like old friends, like they do invite me, but they're aware as well that I might not be available because of what I'm doing or what's unfolding. So it was because I was here, the invite came through and I was just like, excellent, fantastic. So went up in, I think it was July. Yeah.
Nice time to go most of the time with Scotland.
Yeah. Really, really nice. Being called very strongly to go and do some pilgrimages up there in Scotland.
So did you have any experiences when you were?
Oh yeah.
Yes. do you fancy just starting with some of those?
Of course. Well, I mean, the Glen, of course. So there's the, you know, so
I have not been, but I have read all about it. So yes, I know where the Glen is.
I hadn't actually read that much about it, so I didn't actually know about the Glen. But whilst I was in the chapel, apparently there's a lady that works there that it's her that you go and speak to if you want to find out some of the more kooky.
And how strange is that? Because the person, when I said to you, I've read all about it, that's the person, her books.
Okay. No.
You know what it is? I've been talking to her for a while.
Wow, she's amazing.
Jacqueline.
She is amazing. And
Yes.
so, yeah, she told me some stories about her
Yes.
experiences there and, orbs of light,
Mm.
as well as, some of the kind of more darker aspects as well, which can come in play with all of these major sites as well, and just what she lives and how she holds that as well. And just it was very sweet. It's like, for me, it was very sweet, very soft, like super strong,
Mm.
super strong, but just this like yeah, like the essence and fragrance of a rose, just like the softness of the petals and that sweet scent, fragrance. And so the church experience, as well as the fact that, of course, it is a tourist site as well.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I went in during a mixed session as well. So I can imagine as well, to go there in group as well would be, next level.
Yes.
Because for me, I was already like feeling it like very strong, like, feet heavy to the ground, just sort of like sucking up that healing light, just like. And so then by the time, so I think maybe Jacqueline had mentioned to go down to the Glen. I found the path down, and wow, wow. And there's this section as well with like a line of oaks, and I've still not read very much about it. I still don't know the things through the mind, but I know the things through the bones, and very, very soft, very sweet, very healing. And I had pneumonia last year. I'm at the end going through some grief, and Saint Michael was there. It was a very powerful initiation because I was at Mont Saint Michel in France. So Saint Michael's Mount.
Yes.
And so I was definitely in the start of last year, I was in this healing, like this deep healing phase of my heart. I'd had a breakup of a dear love, who walks the Magdalene path as well. And so it was a time which really called for a lot of softness, and I really feel that was one of the kind of reasons to be taken there as well, to receive that from Rosalind. So stunning. I can't wait to go back. Like, really,
again, I say this to so many people, the fact that synchronicities is huge. It's like what we were saying. You say the lady, and I went, yes,
totally. Totally.
Yeah, and this is how it always happens. It's it is amazing, and it never ceases to be amazing either.
Yeah.
But how that happened to me was because on one of the trips when I was going to Scotland, I suddenly I had dropped into my head Metatronic ley lines, and I'm right, okay. So it was like Google, never heard of them, Metatronic ley lines. Whose book does it put me to? Jacqueline's book.
Wow. Wow.
And that's how I actually came. It was nothing to do with Rosalind. It was that what's actually came up and who she used to work with, and then everything started to fall into place and all the jigsaw pieces. And that's why in Scotland, a lot of the ley lines, and that's what she talks about. She writes about the Rochelle lines, which again are the Metatronic lines.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is like
Love it.
you can't make this up. It's
No.
just, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So there is a call for me to go to Roslin at the right time.
Mm.
I've not been there yet, but it's definitely, it's probably this year that it will be on the cards.
Yeah. Ooh.
Mm.
Might see that.
Yeah, yes, there's a good
Like do a little
possibility.
pilgrimage.
Yes, yes, most definitely. And our friend Janie has already had the heads up that she's going, so there might be a few of
Excellent.
us.
Excellent. Excellent. Ooh. Yeah, can go to a few nice spots as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like when I said to you before that, you know, the how spirit works is to trust the messages really that you get and to go with them. And again, we're back to the surrender analogy.
Yeah.
You know, when you're on this path, you do have to surrender to get the information through, don't you? Otherwise it just doesn't happen. And it's like I was saying to you before, how we're put in places, it's like with your wedding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what happens to me. It's not that I'm gonna go here to do this. It's always right, I'm either got to go and visit somebody like that, or I've had that, go to a wedding, and you end up being put in a place, and it's not till you get there that it's like, oh right, okay, very well done.
Totally. Totally. Like really like the one of the, you know, the strongest stories for me on that, and again it's linked to the Magdalene, was I was, so my spiritual teacher has a place in the south of France as well. It's a very special place. There's a cave as well where
Wow.
there's a door, there's a stone boulder, but it's not able to access it from the outside of where we can enter. So
Yes.
you know, we don't know where the other point is there, but the stone boulder is moving as well, and you know, stuff is going on there. And so we had a meditation. It was an angelic meditation. Received some messages. I very clearly received the image of the Ankh.
Oh right.
And at that point, I wasn't totally familiar with the Ankh. Like I was,
Yes.
but I didn't quite know what it held. And also a message about summer solstice. So I had it in my mind in terms of, right, okay, summer solstice, which was in 6 weeks' time, and this symbol of the Ankh. On summer solstice, then we were in Saint-Baume, which is Mary Magdalene's forest and cave. Meet a man. He comes and joins our group. He goes into his bag. Summer solstice. He comes into his bag, pulls out an ankh, puts it on the altar, and I'm like, 6 weeks prior, just like summer solstice, ankh. This partner, this man is then my partner, and I was with him for a year and a half from that point. And he lives in a place, Vézelay, which is so instead of, for the Eucharist, I think it's the Eucharist. I've zoned out a little bit of the church sort of wording here, but instead of a cross, okay,
Yes.
they have an ankh.
Nice. Yeah, makes sense.
So I arrived at this place and I was like, I need to live here.
Really?
I need to live here. So I packed up, I moved, and I lived there for a year and a half, because I was just like, I have to. It's like when the signs are that clear. There was a village at the base of the hill, which is where the church with the Ankh is, and I walked down. I'd been hearing about this town, and I'm not great at French, so like I couldn't quite get the name of it. And then I walked down and I found this town, and this voice came through of like, I am going to live here. And I was like, all right, okay. Like, what's going to happen here? It's just like, it's just a little French village. Walk down, and at the end of the road, there's a poster with a flat for rent. Go to the mairie, so which is the town hall in France, but it's the Mary. Go to
Wow.
Mary,
Yes.
you know. Then I go and I get the apartment and I go and live there, and I live there for however long I need to,
Yes.
to work that through. And yeah, and then that really brought me back to the UK. I mean, there's a very strong link there with Vézelay and, of
Hmm.
course, Glastonbury as well. So,
Yes.
they talk about it as different dimensions of the heart. So there's kind of like a wormhole as well, which connects them both. So they're very strong kind of anchor points. And then of course it kind of got to the point of, I don't speak French, I don't do this. It's like I need to go now and work on my land and work on my soil, and being able to, I guess, to sink in and to then like transmit that in
Yes.
my own tongue.
Hmm.
So yeah, the links are
Wow.
just being able. I mean, the key though is just being able to like discern as
Yes.
well. Like such a
Mm.
such a key and important like task. Like just to know if it's like this is something that, like, for me, it's just been like, right, okay, is that actually like the deep self, or is that just like those layers of like conditionings which are
Hmm.
like
Yes.
pulling me, and just being able to like discern and come into that
Mm.
more and more is just like that's like a gift and a key to be
Yes.
able to
Yeah.
which
True. And
we're living.
yes, and I think the biggest thing with that is that, like you said, you you kind of, well, you don't have any choice. You have to get out of the mind, because when you're when you're going to somewhere, or you're being led to go to somewhere, and you've got the information that you've got to do something, again, you're not always given the full information. You're given parts. So it's very much like breadcrumbs, isn't it? So you kind of you go where you've been told to go, and you trust the process. And obviously we're surrendering around that as well. But it's not a it's not a something that you're mentally told. It's something that you feel, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the difficult bit to put over to people. It's not that you do, so obviously we do get the messages and everything else, but when something happens, when you know that it's 100% true in your being, it's a totally felt experience, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a deep yes. And I think for me, like that, the long silence, which I did the 59 days, like I really got to know my mind, and I really got to know the cosmic mind as well. And
Yeah.
like allowing that wave to come into the ocean, so to
Mhm.
come into like that expansiveness. And then when we're in that, things can drop in and they can land, and then they can start to kind of come forth how they want to come forth. But from that, I think if we're so up here, if like we're so in that kind of conditioned, caged version of ourselves, then the wisdom doesn't have space to really to take root. You know, it can just
Yes.
sort of get lost and like tangled, and then just,
Mm.
it's gone.
Mm.
But
Yes.
to really to allow us to be open enough to allow that to come through, and then like what you said, to feel it fully.
Mm.
Like to feel it fully, and it might not be what you thought it was going to feel like. It's just like it's beyond.
Yes. Yeah.
That's gold. Yeah.
Mm. But this path is absolutely an amazing one, isn't it? And we're all traveling the same path, but wow, do we all have so many different experiences. And this is why it's lovely to come together and share those experiences between each other, between everybody else as well, because somebody listening to this could have an aha moment in what we're discussing, or could feel compelled to go somewhere after they've listened to us, or just the fact of, oh, that's what that was. So, it could happen on many, many layers. You just froze a little bit.
I know.
But yes, it's such a beautiful journey with all of those that we're lucky enough to come into contact with us, and those that we have as clients or as mentors to us, as good friends, that everybody around us always brings something to us, don't they? In all shapes and forms. I mean, it's always miraculous, isn't it?
And it's such a tapestry,
Mm.
it's just like such a weaving, and it's so spiraling. And it's just like when you think you've had that breakthrough, and it's the last breakthrough of that part of the spiral, and it's like, yes, I've done it, and then it just drops in like a deeper layer, and it's just like,
Yeah.
okay. It's like, now we're moving in this
Yes.
realm, right? Okay, and it's the it's the moving out of this linear way of thinking and
Yes.
achieving of, it's going to happen now and then that's just going to be it and then it's done. This like fast food way of, even like fast food in terms of spirituality as well, and it's like, yes, it can serve to have that initial awakening, but how are we going to just like ensure that those like
Yes.
roots are like fully deep down in our being, so that change can like start to breathe through us, instead of just like
Yes.
those instantaneous highs and then like the next week it's gone. It's just like, that's just not satisfactory, for the soul. So just to be okay with the continuation and the faith, like even going beyond like trust. There's trust,
Yes.
and then there's faith, and it's just like, right, okay, there's no going back.
No, I always say
Like,
no.
it's like you can think like, oh no, am I like in like a de-awakening phase? And
No,
it's like, no, there's no way. You just
no.
can't. You can't. And then so to come into this community, to, feel supported, to hear these stories as well, and to hear the vastness and how different it is for each person, based on their dharma and based on their path and based on who they are. Again, we get out of this like, it should look like this.
Yes.
We're just breaking down those walls of that box,
Yes.
because it doesn't exist. The
No.
boxes do not exist.
No. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like I said, I said in a video, I think it was a few weeks ago, I said the only thing that you can ever be sure of in life is the fact that one day you are going to transition, you are going to die. That's it. That's the only sure thing that you've got going for you. you know, and all the rest of it is what you do in between times, isn't it? Nothing else is for sure. You don't know from one day to
Exactly.
the other.
Yeah.
So, you know, why not enjoy the process?
Yeah.
And you know, like if you can just step onto a spiritual path. And even when you're on this path, it's opening up all the time, constantly. You know, we're constantly weaving the web between the light and the dark, and
All of it, all of
always.
it, all of it, all of it. Yeah, to get out of that, again, that box, that
Mm,
idea, that concept of just like the light and the dark, and then it's all, no, it's just like it's the yin and the yang,
mm,
literally,
yeah, most
yin and
definitely.
yang.
And I think people have that misconception of when you are on this path and when you supposedly get to a certain level, you will call it, that people think that they are not going to experience the shadow or the dark. And it's not the case. That doesn't ever happen. It's the aspect of it is yes, okay, we now experience the dark, but we have the tools to be able to get out of it quicker and to stand back and to look at it and alchemize it for what it is.
And
That's
just
the only
allow
difference,
it,
isn't it? Yes.
just allow it,
Mm,
you know. Yeah, I mean, light is inherently light because there exists dark.
mm. Of course,
Dark
yes.
is only dark
Yes,
because
yes.
there is an existence of light. Like when we're talking about it in this dual realm, then yeah, the light and dark, if we talk about it from, I guess, the totality, which encompasses all, which,
Yes.
there's that amazing quote as well. I can't remember who says it now. But it's like it's center point everywhere and its circumference nowhere.
Right.
I have to find out who that was. But yeah, just the vastness,
Mm,
the the expansion,
mm.
just
And I think a lot of the time, again, we're back to trusting the process. It's all about trusting the process, and that's, that's not when I say that about people think, well, giving up totally, but when you're on this path, you do kind of have to give up a lot to the process, to your feelings, to whatever guides are talking to you, whatever the channelings that you are getting, and kind of just go with it. Just like you said, it's one foot in front of the other,
yeah,
and it's constantly being dropped in front of you, and you never. I suppose that's really an exciting part about it, is you really don't know where it's going to lead.
yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, because obviously they like some kind of security, and they
Mm,
they want to know what's going to happen all the
mhm,
time.
yeah,
So there is a lot of fear involved. That's why people don't let go
yeah,
and don't trust the process, isn't it? Because they want that control. And that control, I mean, I know myself, like years ago, control, yes. And I've learned that it doesn't work. You really can't control anything.
yeah. I mean, that's the biggest, well, one of, I guess, jokes that we can control.
Yes,
Just like, I mean, of course, we can control particular aspects
yes,
of this existence. Yeah, of course. But, there's a wider orchestra which is, at play,
mm,
and just trying to tune in, to know what note we're on so that we can, play our part in this great awakening which is currently unfolding and there's no way to stop it. Then yeah, and I really felt into, when you talked about death as well, and how that's the only certainty that we know, and then of course, like every single breath is a death.
yes,
It's just like Like change is
Mhm.
yes, it can be uncomfortable, but like change is just that inevitable part of life. And when we, you know, put down the reins and just accept a little bit, like, right, okay, things are going to change. And like, what even is that that's going to change? It's like, if we don't, and again, like, I think this is like where this like long-term work comes from as well, instead of just like superficial uh, sides of things, like to plunge into the depth, like what is it that's going to change? Like what? And there is a part of us which is unchanging. There is a part of us which some may say is unborn and will never die. Like what those parts that can change, are the body and,
Yes.
the the name and the partner and the job and, those things. But what's like really, really, really at the core and at the depth and in that unified space, you know, where all those waves of me and you and, Bob down the road just melt down into that ocean of being.
Yes.
Oof,
I agree.
that's what we're here
Yes,
for.
I know. I
May
know.
we all
Yeah.
remember. May we all
Yes.
remember.
Yes.
Hearts on fire around the globe. May we all remember.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I know earlier on we have to put this out there that you have a retreat coming up.
I do. Yeah, I have a silent meditation retreat at the end of April in Exmoor, so in North Devon. Devon, which is heaven. Don't tell too many people because it is heaven. It's really,
So
really
this is
cool.
in the UK, I will say, because we have a lot of listeners that are all over the world. So this is in the UK. So even if you need to get on a plane.
Yes. Yeah.
So when is it at the end of April?
Yeah, so it's the 25th of April until the 29th, and it's a silent meditation retreat. So we're going to be diving into the spiritual heart, into the self, the being, to learn ways to, to move out of the busyness of the mind and just to drink in this nectar of silence. So I will speak and share and transmit and teach, and then others are invited to remain in silence. So it's for 4 nights, and with phones off, and
Yes.
people are encouraged as well to not make eye contact in that time period, to not read books. It's like really this unique in, in, invitation just to dive in, to like to see what's truly there from outside of all of the external stimuli, and most importantly like to come into contact with the spiritual heart. So
Oh,
yeah,
sounds
one of
absolutely,
the
I was
things.
going to say, sounds amazing. And I will put the link to that in the
Yes,
description so people can click on it and go and have a look. And
yes.
and obviously like book because it sounds wonderful. But before we draw to an end,
Yeah.
I have to read everybody this. I was looking through your website and at all of your things that you've written on there, and this hit me. And I think it is so profound. And it's so funny when we come together, the words that you've written. If people go to my site and the retreat that is coming in September, you will see some of these same words.
I love it.
So again, just amazing. So I want to finish on this, and it's just stunning. So this is what you wrote and is on your website, Turiya. We are sovereign queens holding the keys to our own mastery. Our mission in this life is to realize this. Our mission in this life is to embody this. Our mission in this life is to transmit this. Thank you for writing that. It's just amazing.
Thank you, Great Spirit.
And when I read this, I said, like I said to you, especially the transmit this, this is what we are both doing now in our stories, in our chats. We are transmitting so much to all of you, and I hope that some of this will give you aha moments, and you will be able to sit there with our energy, and it will comfort you in some shape or form. So please go and check out Turiya Ma's website, her retreat, everything else. I will put it all underneath in the description so you can go over and check everything out. And I thank you so much for this. It's been such an enjoyment, and I know that there is definitely more to come. And there's a good possibility that we're going to be in Scotland together.
Yes, yes. Let's do it.
Yeah, so look out, everybody, because there's going to be videos on that and wherever that goes. But I think that this is definitely where this is going.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, I'm feeling a deep yes.
Yes.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Thank you so much. And for everybody, if you haven't subscribed, please do so if you've enjoyed this. What I will say to you and ask is please press the notification bell for all notifications. Otherwise, it just gets lost in the YouTube multiverse of things and you don't tend to see it. So all notification bells, please. I'd love to hear your comments because I love reading them, and I look forward